Fading mark on her wrist 1 week, a fresh one on her forearm the next. Bruises that appeared and disappeared like clockwork, always in places long sleeves could hide. The Mafia boss noticed, because that was what he did. He noticed patterns. He noticed how she held herself differently on certain days, how her smile became more automatic when she was hurting, how she flinched at sounds that shouldn't startle anyone. He didn't say anything at first, but each casual encounter added another piece to a picture he didn't want to see. And when he finally understood what he was looking at, he made a decision. He was going to follow her, and he was going to find out the truth. Emma Laurent had worked at the Volkov estate for 8 months. 8 months of the same routine. Up at 5. Uniform pressed, hair pulled back tight, hands that moved quickly and efficiently through the marble hallways of a house that cost more than she'd earn. In 10 lifetimes, she was 26 years old, but sometimes she felt older, the kind of tired that sleep couldn't fix. The staff at the estate numbered 15, gardeners, cooks, housekeepers, security. Emma kept to herself. She ate lunch alone. She didn't join the others when they gathered in the kitchen to gossip about their employer. Adrian Volkov. The name alone carried weight in the city. He was 34, tall, with dark hair that was always perfectly styled, and eyes that seemed to see through people. He wore tailored suits that probably cost more than Emma's yearly salary. He spoke quietly, which somehow made people listen more carefully. Everyone knew what he was. A businessman, officially. But the whispers told a different story. Organized crime, strategic influence, the kind of power that didn't need to be loud because it was absolute. Emma had seen him exactly 3 times in 8 months. Once when she was hired, once when she accidentally stepped into his study while cleaning, and once 2 weeks ago, when he'd walked past her in the hallway and their eyes met for exactly 2 seconds before she looked away. She made sure never to be in his path. People like her didn't exist in the same world as people like him. She cleaned his home. She collected her paycheck. She went back to her life. That was the arrangement. It happened on a Tuesday in September. Emma was polishing the banister in the main staircase, her movements precise and practiced. She'd been at this job long enough to make it look effortless. Adrian Volkov passed by on his way to his office. He wouldn't have noticed her at all. Servants were meant to blend into the background, except that she shifted her grip on the polishing cloth at exactly the wrong moment. The sleeve of her gray uniform rode up 3 inches, just enough. There, on her left wrist, was a bruise. Yellowish-green, the kind that had been purple a week ago. The shape was distinct. 4 small marks on one side, a larger one on the other. Fingerprints. Someone had grabbed her wrist hard enough to leave an impression. Adrian kept walking, but the image stayed with him. He'd seen bruises before. His world was full of them. But there was something about the way Emma had immediately tugged her sleeve down, automatic, practiced, that bothered him. Still, he filed it away and said nothing. People had accidents, bumped into things. It wasn't his business, not yet. 2 weeks later, Adrian was reviewing documents in the library when Emma entered to dust the shelves. She looked startled to find him there. "I'm sorry, sir. I can come back." "No need. Continue." She nodded and moved to the far corner, working quietly. Adrian pretended to focus on his papers, but he found himself watching her reflection in the window. She reached up to dust a high shelf, and her right sleeve slipped down her arm. Another bruise. This one was fresh, deep purple with red edges. It all wrapped around her forearm like someone had grabbed her and twisted. Emma noticed it immediately and yanked her sleeve down, but not before Adrian saw. He set down his pen. "Emma." She froze. "Yes, sir." "How did you get that bruise on your arm?" Her face went carefully blank. "I bumped into a cabinet at home, sir. The corner caught me wrong." "That must have been quite a bump." "I'm clumsy sometimes." She smiled. Bright, automatic, practiced. "I should pay more attention." Adrian studied her for a moment. She held his gaze, but there was something underneath the smile, something tight and defensive. "Be more careful," he said finally. "I will, sir." She finished dusting quickly and left. Adrian sat in the silent library, thinking. One bruise was an accident. Two bruises in different places, 2 weeks apart, was starting to look like something else. But he still wasn't sure, so he decided to pay more attention. 3 weeks passed. Adrian found himself noticing Emma more often, not in an obvious way. He didn't seek her out or change his routine, but when they crossed paths, he looked. She always wore long sleeves, even though it was warm. She always kept her hair pulled back in a tight bun. She always smiled when spoken to. But the smile never quite reached her eyes. The third encounter happened in the dining room. Adrian was having breakfast when Emma came in to clear the previous night's settings. It was earlier than her usual shift, but Margaret had called in sick. "Good morning, sir," Emma said quietly, moving to the sideboard. "Morning." She worked efficiently, stacking plates with practiced ease. That's when Adrian noticed it. The collar of her uniform was slightly askew, and as she reached across the table, it shifted. On her neck, just below her left ear, were 3 small bruises. Fingerprints again. Someone had grabbed her throat. Adrian's hands tightened on his coffee cup. Emma must have felt his stare because she straightened abruptly, one hand flying to her neck. "Is something wrong, sir? Your collar is crooked." She adjusted it immediately, color rising in her cheeks. "Thank you, sir." She finished clearing the table in record time and practically fled the room. Adrian sat alone, staring at his untouched breakfast. 3 encounters, 3 different bruises, all in places someone was trying to hide. He pulled out his phone and sent a text to Dominic, his most trusted operative. "Need a background check. Discreet. Emma Laurent, estate staff." The response came within seconds. "On it." The fourth encounter happened by accident. Adrian was walking through the service hallway when he heard raised voices ahead. He rounded the corner to find Margaret arguing with one of the kitchen staff about a scheduling conflict. Her voice was sharp, frustrated. "Told you twice already. If you can't follow simple instructions." Emma was there too, standing against the wall, arms wrapped around herself. When Margaret's voice rose sharply, Emma flinched. Not a small reaction. A full-body recoil, shoulders hunching, head ducking slightly, one arm coming up in an instinctive, defensive gesture. Margaret didn't notice, but Adrian did. That flinch told him everything he needed to know. Emma wasn't clumsy. She wasn't accident-prone. She was being hurt, regularly, by someone who made her afraid of raised voices. The argument ended. Margaret stormed off. The kitchen staff scattered. Emma remained against the wall, breathing slowly, clearly trying to compose herself. Adrian approached quietly. "Emma." She jumped, eyes wide. "Sir, I didn't see you. Are you all right?" "Yes, sir, just startled." You flinched when Margaret raised her voice. Emma's expression went carefully neutral. "I don't like yelling, sir. That's all." "Why not?" "It's unpleasant." "Unpleasant," Adrian repeated. "Not frightening." Her jaw tightened. "I should get back to work, sir." "Emma, if someone is hurting you." "No one is hurting me." The words came out too fast, too rehearsed. "I'm fine. Everything is fine." She walked away before he could say anything else. Adrian stood in the empty hallway, his decision crystallizing. He'd seen 4 bruises now. Watched her flinch at raised voices. Heard her lie with practiced ease. This wasn't random. This was systematic, and he was going to find out who was doing it. That evening, Dominic delivered his report. Adrian read it in his office, his expression growing darker with each page. Emma Laurent, age 26, orphaned at 16 when her father died of a heart attack. Legal guardian, Marcus Laurent's stepfather. No criminal record for Marcus, but 2 domestic disturbance calls to their address in the past 18 months. No arrests made. Victim refused to press charges both times. Emma's employment history showed a pattern. She'd worked 6 different jobs in 8 years, never staying anywhere longer than a year. Always leaving abruptly, with no notice. Her bank account showed regular deposits from her paychecks, but immediate withdrawals. The money went to an account jointly held with Marcus Laurent. She had no savings, no car, no independence. Adrian closed the file and looked at Dominic. I need surveillance on her residence. I want to know Marcus Laurent's patterns, where he works, where he drinks, when he's home. You thinking of paying him a visit? I'm thinking of getting answers. Dominic nodded. What about the girl? If she finds out we're watching, though, she won't. Not yet. And when she does, Adrian's jaw tightened. Then I'll deal with it. For 2 weeks, Dominic's team watched Emma's building. They documented everything. Marcus Laurent worked as a warehouse supervisor, Monday through Friday, 7 a.m. to 4 p.m. But he didn't go straight home. 3 nights a week, he stopped at a bar called Murphy's, stayed until closing, drove home, drunk. On those nights, the shouting from the apartment was loud enough to hear from the street. Twice, neighbors called the police. Both times, Emma answered the door and said everything was fine. Just a disagreement. No, she didn't need help. No, she didn't want to press charges. Thank you, officers. Sorry for the trouble. And the police left because they couldn't arrest someone when the victim insisted nothing was wrong. Adrian listened to the audio recordings Dominic had captured. Marcus's voice, slurred and angry. You think you're better than me, huh? You think you can just leave whenever you want? Emma's voice, small and placating. I'm not trying to leave. I'm just working. Working. Right. Probably fucking your boss, aren't you? That's why you're always coming home late. I'm not. Marcus, please. The sound of something breaking. A cry of pain, quickly muffled. Then silence. Adrian stopped the recording and sat in the darkness of his office, breathing slowly. He'd heard enough. He knew what was happening. Now he needed to see it himself. It was a Thursday when Adrian decided to follow Emma home himself. She left the estate at 6 p.m. like always, walked to the bus stop 3 blocks away, took the number 12 bus across town, got off in a neighborhood where broken streetlights outnumbered working ones. Adrian followed in an unmarked car, staying far enough back to avoid notice. Emma walked quickly, head down, shoulders hunched, like someone trying to be invisible. She reached her building, a 4-story apartment complex with peeling paint and sagging balconies. She paused at the entrance, took a deep breath, and went inside. Adrian parked across the street, waited. At 7:30, Marcus's truck pulled into the lot. Adrian watched as a man in his 50s climbed out, stumbling slightly, already drunk. Marcus went inside. Adrian got out of his car and moved closer, staying in the shadows. Emma's apartment was on the 2nd floor. The windows were thin, the walls thinner. He could hear everything. The door slamming. Marcus, where the hell have you been? Emma, work, same as always. Don't lie to me. I called the estate. They said you left an hour ago. I took the bus. It takes time. You trying to avoid me? No, I just... The sound of a slap, sharp, unmistakable. Adrian's hands curled into fists. Emma's voice shaking now. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I should have come straight home. You're damn right you should have. This is my house, my rules. You don't get to decide when you come and go. More sounds. Furniture moving, glass breaking. Emma crying softly. Marcus, stop that crying. You want the neighbors to hear. You want them calling the cops again. No, I'm sorry. I'll be quiet. Good. Now clean this mess up, and don't burn dinner this time. A door slammed. Silence. Adrian stood in the darkness, every muscle in his body screaming at him to kick down that door. But Dominic's voice echoed in his mind. If you go in there now, you'll make it worse for her. So Adrian waited, watched, and made his decision. Adrian didn't go to work the next day. Instead, he called Emma to his office at the estate. She arrived looking nervous, hands clasped in front of her. Sir, you wanted to see me? Close the door, Emma. She hesitated, then obeyed. Adrian gestured to a chair. Sit. I'd rather stand, sir. Sit, please. She sat, perched on the edge of the seat like she might bolt at any second. Adrian studied her face. There was a new bruise on her cheekbone. Faint, but visible under her makeup. I'm going to ask you something, and I need you to be honest with me. Her throat moved as she swallowed. Yes, sir. Are you safe at home? The color drained from her face. Yes, sir. Emma, I'm fine. You have a bruise on your face. Her hand flew to her cheek. I hit it on a cabinet door. You've had 4 different bruises in the last 2 months. Wrist, forearm, neck, face. That's not clumsiness. Panic flashed in her eyes. Sir, I don't know what you think. I know you live with your stepfather. I know the police have been called to your address twice for domestic disturbances. I know you refused to press charges both times. She stood abruptly. You investigated me? Yes. You had no right. I had every right to protect someone working in my home. I don't need protection. Don't you? Emma's eyes filled with tears. You need to stay out of this. I can't. Yes, you can. Her voice cracked. You can forget what you've seen and let me handle my own life. Is this handling it? Adrian gestured to her face. Letting him hit you, controlling your money, trapping you in that apartment? It's not that simple. It's exactly that simple. You're being abused, and I can help you. No. The word came out desperate. No, you can't. If he finds out I told someone, if he thinks I asked for help. She stopped herself, but Adrian understood. He'll hurt you worse. She looked away, tears streaming down her face. Please, sir. Please just forget about this. I'm surviving. That's all I need to do. You deserve more than survival. What I deserve doesn't matter. She met his eyes, her expression hollow. This is my reality, and if you try to change it, you'll only make things worse. For both of us. Emma, I'm begging you. Her voice broke. Please, just let this go. She walked out before he could respond. Adrian sat alone in his office, staring at the closed door. She'd refused his help, begged him to stay out of it, but he'd already made his decision. 2 weeks ago, when he'd heard Marcus hit her through those thin walls. He was going to end this, with or without her permission. Emma didn't come to work the next day. She called in sick, the first time in 8 months. Margaret sounded concerned when she relayed the message to Adrian. She said she had a migraine. Sounded awful. Adrian nodded. Thank you, Margaret. He knew the truth. Emma wasn't sick. She was afraid. Afraid he'd ask more questions. Afraid he'd try to help. Afraid everything would fall apart. While Emma hid in her apartment, Adrian sat in his office reading the complete background report Dominic had compiled. It was worse than he'd thought. Emma's mother had died when she was 7. Cancer, brutal and fast. Her father remarried when she was 9 to Marcus Laurent, a man who seemed stable, employed, normal. The abuse started when Emma was 12. Small things at first. Verbal berating, unreasonable rules, punishments that didn't fit the crime. By the time she was 14, it had escalated to physical violence. Her father never knew. Marcus was careful. He only hit Emma when her father was at work. He never left marks where they'd be easily seen. And he was good at making Emma believe it was her fault, that she was too loud, too slow, too clumsy, too ungrateful. When Emma's father died of a heart attack when she was 16, Marcus became her legal guardian. And the abuse got worse. Without her father as a buffer, Marcus had complete control. He controlled her money, her schedule, her freedom. Emma had tried to leave once at 23. She'd saved money in secret, found a tiny apartment across town, packed a bag. Marcus found her at the bus station. The hospital report from that night listed a fractured rib, bruised kidney, and multiple contusions. Emma told the doctor she'd been mugged. No one believed her, but no one could prove otherwise. After that, she stopped trying. Survival became her only goal. Keep your head down. Follow the rules. Don't make him angry. And when the bruises came, because they always came, hide them. Long sleeves, high collars, makeup, practiced smiles. Pretend everything is fine. Because admitting the truth meant risking something worse. Adrian closed the file, jaw tight. Emma had been trapped for 14 years, half her life, and she'd learned that silence was the only way to survive. But Adrian was going to teach her something different. That silence wasn't the only option, that she deserved freedom, whether she believed it yet or not. Emma returned to work 3 days later. She moved through the estate like a ghost, barely making eye contact with anyone. Adrian watched from a distance. She had new bruises, one on her upper arm, visible when she reached to dust a high shelf, one on her jaw, poorly covered by makeup. He'd stopped her from working for 3 days, and Marcus had punished her for it. Adrian felt something cold settle in his chest. This was his fault. By confronting her, by making her afraid to come to work, he'd made things worse. Exactly what she'd warned him would happen. He needed to fix this, but he needed to do it without putting Emma in more danger. That night, he called a key meeting with his inner circle. Dominic, Luca, his attorney, Vincent, his second-in-command, and Nikolai, his oldest friend, gathered in the private room of a restaurant he owned. Marcus Laurent, Adrian said without preamble. I need him gone. Nikolai raised an eyebrow. Gone as in disappeared, or gone as in he never bothers Emma Laurent again. Luca pulled out a tablet. The stepfather, what did he do? He's been abusing her since she was 12, physically, emotionally, financially. She's trapped. The room went quiet. Vincent leaned back in his chair. She file a police report? No, she's too afraid. She want him gone. She's too afraid to want anything. She begged me not to get involved. Nikolai lit a cigarette. So, this is a mercy mission. This is justice, Adrian corrected. Justice for someone who didn't ask for it. Luca pointed out carefully. That's complicated. I don't care. Adrian. Luca set down the tablet. If we move on, this without her consent, we need to be smart. We can't just make him disappear. She'll blame herself. So what do you suggest? We give him a way out, make him leave on his own. Adrian's expression darkened. He doesn't deserve a way out. Maybe not, but she deserves peace. And peace means he leaves her life completely. No revenge, no coming back, no leverage. Vincent nodded. Luca's right. If we handle this wrong, she'll spend the rest of her life looking over her shoulder. Adrian knew they were right. He wanted to hurt Marcus Laurent, wanted to make him feel every ounce of pain he'd inflicted on Emma. But this wasn't about Adrian's anger. This was about Emma's safety. What's the play? He asked. Luca smiled. We make him an offer he can't refuse. Marcus Laurent worked as a warehouse supervisor. Decent job, decent pay, but Luca's research uncovered something interesting. Marcus had debts, gambling debts, nearly $40,000 owed to an underground casino operation that was coincidentally under Adrian's protection. He's been making payments, Luca explained, but barely. He's one bad month away from default. And if he defaults, they'll come collect violently. Adrian's mind worked through the possibilities. Can we buy the debt? Already did. As of this morning, Marcus Laurent owes you $40,000. Perfect. Here's what we're going to do, Adrian said. We offer him a deal. We forgive the entire debt, plus we give him $50,000 cash. In exchange, he signs over any legal claim to Emma, moves out of state, minimum 500 miles, and never contacts her again. That's generous, Vincent said. It's not about generosity. It's about making sure he takes it. And if he doesn't? Nikolai asked. Adrian's expression went cold. Then we remind him what happens to people who owe me money and refuse to pay. Luca made a note. We'll need legal documents, transfer of guardianship rights, restraining order, non-contact agreement. Draft them. I want everything ironclad. What about Emma? Dominic asked quietly. She's going to know you were involved. Adrian had thought about that. She'd be angry. Maybe she'd hate him, but she'd be safe, and that was worth her hatred. She doesn't need to know the details. Adrian said, as far as she's concerned, Marcus decided to leave on his own. She won't believe that. Probably not. But she also won't be able to prove otherwise. Dominic frowned. There's another problem. What? The apartment. It's in Marcus's name. If he leaves, Emma has nowhere to go. Adrian hadn't considered that. Find her a place, he said. Something safe, something she can afford with her salary. Put it in her name only. Pay the first year's rent and deposit anonymously. She'll know it was you. I don't care. She needs somewhere to live. Luca nodded. I'll handle it. One more thing, Adrian said. Emma's bank account, the joint one with Marcus. Can we separate it? Legally, we'd need both signatures. Then open a new account in her name only. Transfer her paychecks there starting immediately. Make sure Marcus can't access it. Done. Adrian stood. We move on this in 48 hours. I want Marcus out of her life by the end of the week. They approached Marcus on a Thursday night. He was leaving the warehouse when Vincent and Dominic intercepted him in the parking lot. Marcus Laurent? Marcus turned, immediately defensive. Who's asking? Someone who wants to help you with your financial situation. Marcus's eyes narrowed. I don't know what you're talking about. Vincent smiled. The 40,000 you owe. We can make that go away. The color drained from Marcus's face. I'm making payments. We know, but we have a better option. They drove him to a neutral location, a quiet office space Adrian occasionally used for delicate negotiations. Adrian was waiting. Marcus looked. Between them, realization dawning. You're Volkov. Sit down, Marcus. Marcus sat, hands shaking slightly. Adrian slid a folder across the table. Your debt has been purchased by my organization. You now owe me $40,000. Marcus's face went white. I can pay, I just need time. I'm going to give you two options. The first option, I forgive your debt entirely. I also give you $50,000 in cash. You use that money to relocate out of state. Minimum 500 miles from here. You sign legal documents relinquishing any claim to Emma Laurent. You never contact her again. You never come back to this city. Marcus blinked. You're serious? Completely. What's the second option? Adrian's expression didn't change. I collect the debt, with interest, and I don't accept payment plans. The threat hung in the air. Marcus wasn't stupid. He knew exactly what Adrian meant. Why do you care about Emma? That's not your concern. She's family. I've taken care of her. Don't. Adrian's voice went cold. Don't insult both of us by pretending you've done anything but hurt her. Marcus's jaw clenched. You don't know anything about... I know she flinches when people raise their voices. I know she lies about where her bruises come from. I know she's terrified of you. I know you've been hitting her since she was 12 years old. Silence. Marcus's face went red. That's a lie. I have police reports, hospital records, witness statements from your neighbors, audio recordings from your apartment. Adrian leaned forward. I know everything, Marcus. Every single thing you've done to her. Marcus slumped in his chair. If I take the money and leave, she's on her own. Who's going to take care of her? Adrian almost laughed. Emma's been taking care of herself despite you for years. She'll be fine without you. Better, actually. Marcus's hands curled into fists. For a moment, Adrian thought he might refuse, but greed won. It always did. I want the money in cash. You'll get it when you sign the papers. Luca stepped forward with a pen. Marcus read through the documents slowly, his expression shifting from anger to resignation. Finally, he signed. You have 1 week to leave the city, Adrian said. If you're still here after that, the deal is void. And Emma? Emma will be notified that you've relocated for work. You will not contact her. You will not explain. You'll simply be gone. Marcus stood, jaw tight. She's going to know you did this. Perhaps. But she'll be safe. That's all that matters. Marcus left with Vincent to collect his money and finalize the arrangements. Luca lingered. Think he'll actually stay away. I'll make sure of it, Adrian said quietly. I'm assigning someone to monitor him for the next year. If he makes any move toward Emma, we end him. Luca nodded. And the girl? What happens when she finds out? She'll be angry. Probably. But she'll be free. Adrian looked out the window at the city lights. That's all that matters. Emma noticed something was wrong the moment she got home on Friday. The apartment was too quiet. Marcus's truck wasn't in the parking lot. She unlocked the door carefully, heart pounding. The living room was different, emptier. His recliner was gone. His jacket wasn't on the hook. The half-empty whiskey bottle that usually sat on the counter had been cleaned up. Marcus? No answer. She walked through the apartment slowly. His bedroom door was open. The bed was stripped. The closet was empty. Even his toiletries were gone from the bathroom. On the kitchen table, she found an envelope. Inside was a handwritten note. Got a job offer in Texas. Leaving today. The apartment's paid through the end of the year. Take care of yourself. Emma read it 3 times. Then she sat down at the table. Her hands were shaking. Marcus didn't get job offers. Marcus. Didn't leave without a fight. Marcus didn't pay rent a year in advance. Someone made this happen, and she knew exactly who. But instead of anger, what she felt was nothing. Just a vast, hollow emptiness where fear used to live. She sat at the table for an hour, staring at the note. Then she started to cry. Not because she'd miss him, but because for the first time in 14 years, she was alone, really alone, and she didn't know if that was freedom or just a different kind of trap. On Monday morning, Emma found a package on her doorstep. No return address. Inside was a folder containing 1. A lease agreement for a one-bedroom apartment in a safe neighborhood across town. The first year's rent and deposit already paid. Tenant name, Emma Laurent. 2. Bank statements showing a new account in her name only. Her last 3 paychecks had been deposited there, plus an additional deposit of $50,000. 3. A restraining order against Marcus Laurent, already filed and approved. 4. A copy of the legal documents Marcus had signed, relinquishing all claims to her. And at the bottom, a simple handwritten note. This is yours, no strings attached. You decide what to do next. A.V. Emma sat on her floor, surrounded by papers that represented a life she'd never imagined she could have. A safe apartment, money in an account only she could access, legal protection, freedom, all handed to her by a man she barely knew. A man who'd ignored her explicit request to stay out of her life. A man who'd taken away her choice and given her everything. She should be angry. She wanted to be angry, but all she felt was overwhelmed and terrified because she had no idea how to be a person who wasn't afraid. Emma didn't go to work for 3 days. She stayed in Marcus's empty apartment, trying to process what had happened. On Wednesday, she finally worked up the courage to go back to the estate. She found Adrian in his office. She didn't knock. She walked straight in and closed the door behind her. Adrian looked up from his desk. Emma, what did you do? He set down his pen. I helped you. I told you not to. I know. I begged you to stay out of it. I know that too. She threw the folder onto his desk. You had no right. You're correct. I didn't. His calm acceptance threw her off balance. Then why? Adrian stood slowly, moving around the desk. Because someone needed to, and you couldn't. You don't know what he'll do. He'll come back. He won't. You can't promise that. Yes, Adrian said quietly. I can. Emma stared at him, realization dawning. What did you do to him? I gave him a choice. He took it. What kind of choice? The kind that ensures he never comes near you again. The kind that makes it very clear what will happen if he tries. Emma's breath caught. Did you hurt him? No, but I made certain he understood that his options were to leave your life, permanently and comfortably, or to stay and face consequences he wouldn't survive. She sank into the chair, head in her hands. I didn't want this. I know. I didn't ask for your help. I know. So why? Her voice cracked. Why couldn't you just respect my decision? Adrian crouched in front of her, meeting her eyes. Because your decision was made under duress. Because you were choosing survival over safety. Because you didn't believe you had any other option. Because I watched you flinch at raised voices, and hide bruises, and lie with practiced ease. And I knew that you'd been doing that for so long, you'd forgotten there was any other way to live. Tears streamed down Emma's face. I was handling it. You were surviving. There's a difference. I didn't need you to save me. Maybe not, Adrian said gently. But you deserved someone to try. Emma closed her eyes. I don't know how to do this. Do what? Be free. I don't know who I am without someone controlling everything. Then you get to find out. And that's terrifying, I know. But it's also a gift. She looked at him through her tears. The money is yours from Marcus. Part of the agreement was that he compensate you for years of financial control. The apartment is in your name, paid for. You can live there or not. Your choice. My choice, she repeated softly. I haven't had a choice in 14 years. You have one now. Every day, every decision, yours. Emma wiped her eyes with shaking hands. What if I make the wrong choices? Then you'll learn from them, like everyone else. What if I can't do this? You can, Adrian said with quiet certainty. You survived 14 years of abuse. You kept getting up every morning even when you had no reason to hope things would get better. You're stronger than you think, Emma. She laughed, bitter, broken. I don't feel strong. Strength isn't always loud. Sometimes it's just showing up, just breathing, just surviving one more day. Adrian stood, giving her space. You don't have to decide everything right now. Take your time. Figure out what you want. The job is here if you want it. The apartment is there if you want it. The money is yours no matter what. Emma stood slowly, clutching the folder to her chest. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to. She moved toward the door, then paused. Mr. Volkov? Yes? Why did you really do this? The truth. Adrian was quiet for a moment. Because I've spent my entire life in a world where violence has rules, where power is respected and fear is a tool. And I've made peace with that world because I understand it. He met her eyes. But what was happening to you wasn't violence with rules. It was cruelty. It was control. And when I saw it, I had a choice. I could ignore it and stay in my comfortable world, or I could do something about it. He paused. I chose to do something because I could, and because you deserve better than what you'd been given. Emma's eyes filled with fresh tears. Thank you. You're welcome. She left quietly. Adrian returned to his desk, but he couldn't focus on work. He'd done what he set out to do. Emma was free. Safe. The rest was up to her. Emma didn't quit her job. She came back 2 days later, and if she seemed different, quieter, new apartment that weekend. It was small, but clean, safe, in a building with working locks and neighbors who smiled when they passed her in the hallway. She furnished it slowly. A bed, a small table, a chair, things that were hers. For the first time in her life, Emma Laurent lived alone. No one to answer to, no one to fear, no one controlling when she came and went. It should have felt like freedom. Instead, it felt terrifying. She didn't know how to fill the silence, didn't know what to do with evenings that didn't involve walking on eggshells, didn't know how to exist without the constant weight of fear. The first night in her new apartment, she slept on the floor, next to the bed. Because the bed felt too open, too exposed. The second night, she managed to sleep on top of the covers, fully dressed. By the end of the first week, she could sleep under the blankets. Small victories. Emma discovered she liked coffee, not the instant kind Marcus used to drink. Real coffee, from a cafe 3 blocks from her apartment. She started stopping there every morning before work. The barista, a young woman named Sophie, learned her order, started having it ready when Emma walked in. Vanilla latte, extra shot? Yes, please. Such a small thing, but it felt monumental. Choosing what she wanted to drink, having money in her pocket to pay for it, being recognized as a person, not a problem. Emma started taking different routes to work. She'd always taken the most direct path, fastest, least exposure, minimum. Time away from home. Now she walked through parks, stopped to look at window displays, sat on benches, and watched people. She bought a plant for her apartment, a small succulent that the woman at the store said was hard to kill. Emma named it Hope. She joined a book club at the local library, sat in a circle with 5 other women and talked about characters and plot twists and what they thought would happen next. She made a friend, Claire, a woman in her 30s who worked as a teacher and had a laugh that could fill a room. They started having lunch together on weekends, just talking about books, about work, about nothing important. It was the most normal thing Emma had ever experienced, and it felt revolutionary. 3 months after Marcus left, Emma asked to speak with Adrian. They met in his office, but this time, Emma sat without being asked. I wanted to give you an update, she said. Adrian set aside his work. I'm listening. I'm enrolling in school, community college. There's a nursing program. That's wonderful. It's going to take 2 years, but I've always wanted to help people, and I think I'd be good at it. I think you would too. Emma smiled, a real smile, the kind that reached her eyes. I also wanted to say thank you, properly. Emma, you don't, please, let me. Adrian nodded. For most of my life, Emma began, I believed I didn't deserve help, that I'd done something to earn the way I was treated, that if I just tried harder, worked harder, stayed quieter, maybe things would get better. Her voice steadied. You didn't ask me what I deserved. You didn't wait for me to be ready. You just acted. And I was angry about that. For a while. I understand. But I'm not angry anymore. Because I realize now that I couldn't save myself. Not because I was weak, but because I'd been conditioned to believe I didn't deserve saving. She met his eyes. You gave me a chance to find out who I am, when I'm not afraid. You gave me space to discover that I like coffee and plants and book clubs, that I can make friends, that I can have dreams, that I can exist without constantly apologizing for taking up space. Her voice thickened with emotion. I don't think I can ever fully repay that, but I want you to know. It mattered. You mattered. And I'm grateful. Adrian felt something tighten in his chest. You would have found your way eventually. Maybe. But it would have taken longer. And I might not have survived the wait. She stood, but didn't move toward the door. I need you to know something too, Adrian said. Yes? What happened to you wasn't your fault. The abuse, the control, the fear, none of it. You survived something that would have broken most people. You kept going even when you had no reason to believe things would get better. That's not weakness. That's extraordinary strength. Emma's eyes glistened. I'm still figuring that out. That's okay. You have time now. She nodded, then surprised him by stepping forward and hugging him quickly. Thank you, Adrian. He returned the embrace briefly. You're welcome, Emma. She pulled back, smiling through tears. Will I see you again? If you need me, I'm here. And if I don't need you, then I hope you have a wonderful life. Emma laughed. I think I'm starting to. She left, and Adrian sat alone in his office. For the first time in years, he felt like he'd done something that mattered. Not for his empire, not for his reputation, just because it was right. Emma Laurent graduated from her nursing program with honors. She got a job at Children's Memorial Hospital, working in the pediatric trauma unit. Kids who'd been hurt, kids who were scared, kids who needed someone who understood that fear. Emma was good at her job, not because she had perfect training or years of experience, but because she recognized the look in their eyes, the way they flinched at sudden movements, the way they apologized for things that weren't their fault, the way they went very still when adults raised their voices. She knew that look. She'd lived it, and now she could help others through it. She rented a bigger apartment. Nothing fancy, but it had space for a real kitchen and a small balcony where she grew herbs. She adopted a cat from the shelter, a gray tabby with amber eyes who'd been abandoned and was afraid of everything. Emma named her Brave. She went on dates, nothing serious at first, just coffee with a guy from her biology class, dinner with a friend of Claire's, learning how to trust that someone could be interested in her without wanting to control her. It was terrifying and exhilarating in equal measure. She kept the plant she'd named Hope. It thrived on her windowsill, growing new leaves every few weeks. A reminder that even things that seemed fragile could flourish with the right care. Emma ran into Adrian at a charity gala. The CE hospital was being honored for their work with at-risk youth, and Emma had been invited as part of the trauma unit team. She almost didn't recognize him in the crowd. But then their eyes met across the room and he smiled. A real smile, the kind she'd never seen when she worked at his estate. He approached, and for a moment they just looked at each other. You look well, he said finally. I am well, really well. I heard about your work at the hospital. Impressive. Thank you. It's everything I hoped it would be. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. I'm glad you're happy, Adrian said. I am. For the first time in my life, I actually am. Emma hesitated, then asked the question that had been on her mind for months. Did you ever regret it, taking the choice away from me? Adrian considered carefully. I regret that you weren't in a position to make that choice freely. I regret that the circumstances required someone to intervene. But do I regret intervening? No, I don't. Emma nodded slowly. I understand that now. At the time I couldn't see it, but now, I'm grateful you didn't listen to me. That's a dangerous precedent to set. She laughed. Maybe. But in my case, it was the right call. How's Brave? Emma blinked, surprised. How did you? I may have checked in on you once or twice, from a distance. Making sure I was okay. Making sure Marcus stayed away. Did he? He moved to Nevada, got a job at a different warehouse. As far as I know, he's kept his end of the bargain. And if he hadn't? Adrian's expression went cold for just a moment. Then he would have faced consequences. Emma shivered, but not from fear, from the knowledge that someone was watching out for her, even when she didn't know it. Thank you for that too, she said softly. You're welcome. The conversation shifted to lighter topics. Her work, his recent business ventures, mutual observations about the gala. When the evening ended, they parted with a handshake and genuine smiles. If you ever need anything, Adrian began. I know where to find you, Emma finished. And if you don't need anything, then I'll probably still check in once in a while, just to say hello. He smiled. I'd like that. Emma stood in front of a classroom full of nursing students, teaching a course on trauma-informed care. The thing you need to understand, she told them, is that trauma doesn't just live in the body. It lives in the way people hold themselves, the way they react to unexpected sounds, the way they apologize for things that aren't their fault. A student raised her hand. How do you recognize it? Emma thought about bruises hidden under long sleeves, about flinching at raised voices, about practiced smiles that never reached the eyes. You pay attention, she said simply. You notice patterns. And when you see something that doesn't add up, you don't ignore it. You don't wait for permission. You help. After class, one of her students approached. Ms. Laurent, can I ask you something personal? Of course. You talk about trauma like you really understand it, not just from textbooks. Emma smiled gently. That's because I do. I survived it. The student's eyes widened. Really? Really. For a long time, I thought survival was enough, that I didn't deserve more than that. But someone showed me I was wrong. What did they do? They intervened when I was too afraid to help myself. They gave me the resources I needed to build a new life, and they did it without asking for anything in return. That must have been someone special. Emma thought about Adrian Volkov, a man who'd noticed bruises when everyone else looked away, who'd followed her home to confirm his suspicions, who'd ignored her pleas to stay out of it because he knew she was asking from a place of fear, not genuine choice, who'd given her freedom when she'd forgotten what freedom felt like. Yes, Emma said softly. They were. Adrian Volkov sat in his office late at night, reviewing contracts that required his signature. His empire had grown, his influence had expanded. He was, by any objective measure, more powerful than he'd ever been. But when he thought about his legacy, what came to mind wasn't business deals or strategic victories. It was a young woman with haunted eyes and practiced smiles. A woman who'd learned to hide bruises and apologize for existing. A woman who'd survived 14 years of abuse and still found the strength to keep going. A woman he'd helped set free. Dominic knocked and entered. Sir, we have the quarterly reports. Leave them on the desk. Dominic hesitated. Everything all right? Fine. Why? You seem contemplative. Adrian smiled slightly. Just thinking about choices. Good ones or bad ones? The kind that matter. After Dominic left, Adrian pulled out a file he kept in his desk drawer. It contained updates on Emma Laurent. Not surveillance exactly, just check-ins, making sure Marcus stayed away, making sure she was safe, making sure she was thriving. The most recent update was from last week. Emma had been promoted to lead nurse in the pediatric trauma unit. She'd bought a house, small, but hers. She was in a relationship with someone who treated her well. She was happy, really, genuinely happy. Adrian closed the file and put it away. He didn't need to keep checking anymore. Emma had built a life, a good life, one she'd chosen, and that was all he'd ever wanted for her. 5 years after Marcus Laurent left, Emma received a phone call. It was from a detective in Nevada. Ms. Laurent, I'm sorry to inform you that Marcus Laurent passed away 3 days ago. Heart attack. We found your name listed as next of kin in his records. Emma sat down slowly. I see. There's no estate to speak of, Just wanted to notify you. Do you want us to handle the arrangements? Yes, please. I'm sorry for your loss. Emma hung up. She sat in her living room, her house, her furniture, her life, and waited to feel something. Grief, relief, anger, anything. But all she felt was closure. Marcus was gone, not because Adrian had made him disappear, not because of violence or revenge, just because life had run its course. Emma pulled out her phone and sent a text. Marcus died. Thought you should know. I'm okay. The response came within minutes. I'm glad you're okay. Do you need anything? Emma smiled. No, but thank you for asking. She set down her phone and looked around her house. At the photos on the walls, her and Claire at the Grand Canyon, her graduation from nursing school, her and her partner at a friend's wedding, at Brave sleeping in a patch of sunlight, at Hope, now so large it had been repotted 3 times, at the life she'd built from nothing. This was freedom, not the absence of Marcus, but the presence of choice, the ability to decide who she was, what she wanted, how she lived, and it was beautiful. Emma Laurent was 33 years old when she gave a TED Talk. The topic was trauma recovery and the importance of intervention. She stood on stage in front of hundreds of people and told her story. Not all of it. She didn't name names or give details that would violate anyone's privacy. But she told the truth about abuse, about how it normalized over time, about how survival became the only goal, about how asking for help felt impossible when you'd been conditioned to believe you didn't deserve it. And she told the truth about what had saved her. Someone noticed, she said. Someone I barely knew saw the bruises I tried to hide, saw the fear I tried to mask. And instead of looking away, instead of waiting for me to ask for help that I was too afraid to request, they intervened. She paused. I was angry at first. I felt like they'd taken away my agency, my choice. But the truth is, I didn't have a real choice. I was choosing between survival and danger, between silence and greater harm. Those aren't real choices. They're just different versions of the same cage. The audience was silent. The person who helped me gave me something I'd forgotten existed. Actual choice. The choice to be safe. The choice to build a life. The choice to discover who I was when I wasn't afraid. Emma smiled. That's what intervention looks like when it's done right. Not control, not rescue, but creating space for someone to find their own strength. After the talk, dozens of people approached her. Some thanked her, some shared their own stories, some asked how they could help someone they suspected was being abused. Emma's answer was always the same. Pay attention, notice patterns, and when you see someone in danger, don't wait for permission to help. Be smart about it, be careful, but help. Adrian watched Emma's TED Talk on his laptop. He'd received an invitation to attend in person, but had declined. This was her moment, her story to tell. He was just a footnote, as it should be. When the talk ended, he closed his laptop and sat in the quiet of his office. He thought about the question Dominic had asked years ago. What happens when she finds out? Emma had found out. She'd been angry, then confused, then grateful, and finally, she'd become herself. Not the terrified maid with hidden bruises, not the survivor clinging to silence, but Emma Laurent, nurse, educator, advocate, survivor, thriver, a woman who'd turned her pain into purpose. That was the real victory. Not that Adrian had intervened, but that Emma had taken that intervention and built something beautiful from it. He stood and walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. In a different life, he might have ignored the bruises, told himself it wasn't his business, looked away, like everyone else had. But he'd chosen differently. He'd chosen to see, to act, to use his power for something other than empire building. And in doing so, he'd learned something important. The most powerful thing you can do isn't building wealth, or commanding respect, or instilling fear. It's giving someone their freedom, asking for nothing in return, and trusting them to build the life they deserve. 10 years after Marcus left, Emma and Adrian met for coffee. It had become a tradition. Once a year, they'd catch up. Talk about work, about life, about everything and nothing. They'd become friends, real friends, not bound by debt or gratitude or obligation, just 2 people who'd shared a moment that changed both their lives. How's the new trauma center? Adrian asked. Incredible. We're helping so many kids. It's everything I dreamed it would be. I'm proud of you. Emma smiled. Thank you for everything, still. You've thanked me enough times. I'll never stop. They sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Don't do I? Can I ask you something? Emma said. Always. Do you ever regret the things you've done? In your other business? Adrian considered the question carefully. I've made choices that keep me up at night. Decisions I'm not proud of. Lines I've crossed that can't be uncrossed. He met her eyes. But helping you? That's the one thing I've never questioned. Not for a second. Emma reached across the table and squeezed his hand. I'm glad you noticed the bruises. I'm glad I followed you home. I'm glad you ignored my pleas to stay out of it. I'm glad you built the life you deserved. They finished their coffee and parted ways. Emma went back to her house where her partner was making dinner and Brave was waiting on the couch. Adrian went back to his empire, to the deals and the power, and the controlled violence that defined his world. But both of them carried something with them. A reminder that sometimes the smallest acts have the biggest impact. That noticing matters. That intervention, when done with genuine care, can change everything. And that freedom, real freedom,